All right, welcome to another installment of 5 Minutes on Worship. This is Keith Reed, and I am joined again by my spiritual nephew, Stephen Quattlebaum, and we are talking about the year of maturity of the worshiper. And in this installment, we've been talking more on the spiritual aspect. In this installment, we're going to bring it full circle and kind of talk about the gifting of the worship leader and the musician and the singer. And so when we talk about maturity, I think maturity expands more than just talking about our spiritual maturity, which is first and foremost the most important.
Absolutely.
But at some point, there should also be maturity in your musicianship.
Absolutely.
There should be maturity in your ability. If you're a vocalist, there should be maturity in your presentation as a worship leader. I know you might start out scared and timid when you first started, but 2 years in, you should be a little bit further along in your journey.
Absolutely.
5 years in, you should really kind of be like, okay, you know what, I'm ready to start pouring into somebody else.
Right.
So, all of that being said, you're a drummer. So I'm just kind of curious, what would be your expectation to hear in a drummer with more of a mature sound? I know it was even interesting in our last worship conference, you came and you played alongside with who normally plays with me, which is my brother. And you know, being that you're in two different generations, one thing that I know both of you did, which I was like, that's the job of the drummer. And basically, the job of the drummer is to make you feel.
Exactly.
You know, and I mean, you two have different approaches, but similar results.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, me and Brian, like you said, we definitely have two different slight approaches, but I think the teaching that we both received, and if I were to ask him, I'm pretty sure he would tell me that I'm correct, is that in your learning of becoming a drummer, the first thing is understanding timing, of course, because it would be a mess if things sounded out of time or it sounded all over the place and scattered. You can't get anything. You can't get anywhere like that, especially when it comes to worship. You're not going to be able to focus and hear from God if me being the drummer, I'm all over the place and not keeping a steady sound for the Lord to work in. But and then even in a music outside in the secular world, they say the same thing. Like, the people are not going to be able to get the song itself without it being driven in a pace or at the pace it needs to be played. And you're not, it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. So
that's a good way to phrase it. Because I know I say it this way. I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, I need the drummer to give me the pulse of the music, because me as a worshiper, as the worship leader, a lot of times the direction that I'm going to go sometimes is driven by the pulse that I feel from who's on the platform with me.
Absolutely.
And the drummer drives a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times I serve in a dual role where I'm also the keyboardist. And so with me already doing more than one function, if the drummer isn't giving me that pocket, and my face tells a lot, you know.
Most people are.
You know, and if the drummer is off, my face is going to kind of show and I'm like, and it's just going to be felt by everybody.
Everybody's going to feel it.
And so that's one thing that in our maturity in our giftings, that we want to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to become better
Yeah.
We don't want to be at that beginner level when we're not supposed to be a beginner.
Absolutely.
Like for myself, I know I have been playing, believe it or not, I've been playing the keyboard for 37 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I should not sound like somebody who's playing for 6 months.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there should be a much more mature sound.
Absolutely.
In how I play. I know you've pretty much grown up, like you said, on a pew.
Yeah.
So you've probably been doing this since you were knee high or old enough to hold a pair of drumsticks.
Absolutely.
So you've been doing it for a long time too. So I would expect your playing is probably different than somebody who's only been playing for about 10 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? It should have a certain level of maturity to it. And so singers, same way.
Same.
And one of the big things that I always tell people is great, you need to know your scales. You need to know the different riffs and runs with the vocalist on the keyboard. You need to know the number system. You need to know your keys. You should know your scales.
Absolutely.
Drums, you need to know all of your timing patterns, and if you're going the route of reading music, all of the different stickings and different things like that as well.
Dynamics.
Definitely. That's for everybody.
Yeah.
Those are things that we need to make sure that we constantly are giving ourselves instruction.
Yeah.
And sometimes that instruction doesn't always have to come from somebody teaching you. Sometimes it comes from observation.
Very true.
And experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the platform, in the practice.
And practice.
When you're on the platform, we need to keep it simple. But I wanted to make sure that we took at least one of these videos to at least kind of address some of those things, so that people know that we're not saying, okay, you want to be holy and all these things, but then come up on the platform and sound a mess.
And not know what you're doing.
No, sir.
You've got to know what you're doing. You have to understand that you are up there because they saw that you take this seriously. Because if you don't take yourself seriously, people are not going to take you seriously. So it first starts at home. With anything else, your relationship with God, your practice time, it starts at home. You do not bring practice time to the platform. That's one major thing that my music director told me. You take it home first. Study it, hear it, listen to it. If you gotta put it on repeat for 3 days straight, do that to get better, to understand the material, and so you know what you're doing when it's time to worship.
Absolutely. And if anybody is looking for a scripture that will back up what we're saying, look at Psalm 33, verse 3, where it says, play skillfully.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say. So on that, we will end our time on this particular segment. So again, this has been 5 Minutes on Worship. I'm Keith Reed. This is Stephen Quattlebaum. And he will be joining me for one more installment. And I'm excited about that. And we are inviting you to the New Beginning Music Conference 2024, April the 20th. Next installment, I will give some specific information on how you can register, because we will be opening registration next week. And I am excited for any and everybody to come and be a part of this.
Absolutely.
Myself and New Sound of Worship are going to be doing a live recording this year, so I am excited about that. And so we are preparing hard for that, and so we want you to definitely be a part of that worship experience. All right, so please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Visit us at newsoundmusicgroup.org for more information.